bottom of sand or sandstone, finer barley and turnip land it is impossible to see. Regardless of such reveries on beloved turnip lands, Cobbett was, in the flesh, a bare-knuckled, go-for-broke political gladiator, perennially struggling to change the mass beliefs of humankind. He was that type of man whose emotions fattened until they became intolerable, and something had to be done, especially when it came to righting social injustice. Cobbett would have his first great political epiphany in 1792, when, as a 29-year-old sergeant major newly retired from the British Army, he followed the House of Commons debate on whether to raise taxes to pay soldiers 3 shillings a week. The men were already supposed to be receiving that sum, but endemic graft meant they got only about half that, and Secretary of War George Young had decided that the answer was to increase revenue instead of trying to stop the service's long-standing corruption. Cobbett, made bitter from his years in the army by his own commander's habitual larceny, challenged this position with The Soldier's Friend, a pamphlet exploring the history of state-sanctioned bunco. His Majesty's government replied by throwing Soldier's publisher James Ridgway into prison for 4 years and forcing the new author to flee the country. Cobbett arrived in the United States to find a nation exactly the contrary of what I expected. The land is bad, rocky, the seasons are detestable, the people are worthy of the country, cheating, sly, roguish. Instead of that perfect freedom and that amiable simplicity of which Paine had given me so flattering a description, I found myself placed under a set of petty, mean despots, ruling by the powers given them by a perversion of the law of England. In Philadelphia, he taught English to Parisians, fleeing the French Revolution. Their horrific accounts, combined with his own infinite disappointment in the ways of American democratic government, threw Cobbett's political beliefs into a full-throttle reverse. He opened a print shop, a business incorporating the entire 18th-century media universe of letters, broadsides, newspapers, pamphlets, magazines, and books, decorated it with portraits of King George III, and, under the byline Peter Porcupine, wrote such rabble-rousing commentary as calling democracy a despotism of the many over the few, and Benjamin Franklin a whoremaster, a hypocrite, and an infidel. His cantankerous and rabidly pro-British, pro-federalist Porcupine's Gazette quickly became North America's most widely read periodical. In 1797, he referred to Philadelphia's scion and American founding father Benjamin Rush as Dr. Sangrado, and denounced his widespread use of bloodletting, a form of medical terror. Rush sued for libel, and, perhaps assisted by the judge's close friendship with Rush's attorney, won an astounding $5,000, around $400,000 today. Forced to shut down Porcupine's Gazette, Cobbett tried to replace it with the American Rush Light, by the help of which wayward and disaffected Britons may see a complete specimen of the baseness, dishonesty, ingratitude, and perfidy of Republicans, and of the profligacy, injustice, and tyranny of Republican government. But this did not satisfy Rush or the court, and he fled jurisdiction once again. Returning to London, Cobbett issued both the Porcupine, Fear God, Honour the King, and Cobbett's Political Register, which went undelivered until he stopped refusing to make kickback payoffs to Britain's Post Office Secretary. When Cobbett then decried the Army's use of flogging, he was tried and found guilty of sedition, and was sentenced to 2 years' confinement in Europe's most notorious prison, Newgate. By the time of his release, Cobbett had come to believe that he had spent his American years living in a fool's paradise, blind to the debauched march of English history. Now he found that Britain's wealthy had only gotten richer, and its working class had fallen further into poverty. He saw the starving poor riot for food, and the government do nothing except order soldiers to beat the mobs into a cowed retreat. He now viewed Whitehall as a repulsive and degenerate system of graft and patronage, controlled by oligarchs and plutocrats, a system he called the Thing, a thing that was turning Englishmen away from the nation's great traditions of